And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, in West Hollywood, there is a serial peeper about. He walks around with a beer in his hands. He's making threatening behavior, and he's also
doing the most with his hands.
That's grotesque.
Yep.
Not exactly what you want to see when you're taking a shower. 800-222-5222 is telephone number 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is the editor of the Guss Report, which you could read online at danielguss.substack.com, and follow him on X at The Guss Report. Daniel Guss, welcome.
Hey, John and Randy, thank you so much for having me back.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. And I know you spend a lot of your time muckraking down at City Hall here in Los Angeles, covering all the ins and the outs of what's going on there, particularly the corruption that is not being uncovered by entities like the Los Angeles Times. But I know you keep an eye on what's going on around the country as well in other big cities. And right now, New York City is in the headlines because of their mayoral election, where you have a socialist candidate, Mamdani, who is leading in all of the polls and seems to be collecting all of the big endorsements from bold-faced names within the Democratic Party. Of course, you have a lot of the financial houses that are headquartered in New York City, a lot of people who make pretty good money, who do not want a socialist to be running that city. A socialist, by the way, who says that he believes the government should own the means of production, meaning the factories, the farms, and everything else. And there's been a push to try to consolidate the field so that the vote, the anti-Mamdani vote, doesn't get split up any number of ways. And if you're against a socialist being mayor of New York City, you basically end up one place. Over the weekend, the current mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, dropped out of the race. There was a lot of pressure being put on him from President Trump and others to drop out of the race because the viability just wasn't there. He acknowledged that in his statement when he decided to leave the race. But right now, you still have at least three well-known candidates who are left. You have the socialist candidate, Mamdani. You have the former governor in Cuomo, who is a guy that a lot of people despise for a lot of different reasons, but certainly well known. And then you have the Republican candidate, who is Curtis Sliwa, who was a radio host, a talk radio host on WABC for many years. He did the morning show, Curtis and Kubi, that aired in that market for a very long time. His poll numbers have been pretty anemic, but he says he doesn't care. He's not dropping out. When you look at this in totality, do you think we're headed down the road where New York City is going to have a socialist mayor?
We don't. Oh, you mean we already have a socialist mayor in Los Angeles? From all of the stories that I've been seeing, and I was just watching Sliwa having an interview on FNC, and he's staying with it. He brings more of the Staten Island kind of sensibility and the Long Island sensibility. I don't know who's going to give here, but this is a problem. And you know what? Maybe it's what New York City needs. Maybe it's what New York City needs now, because they didn't learn from what happened with Lori Lightfoot and now Brandon Johnson in Chicago. They didn't see that thousands of homes were destroyed in Los Angeles, billions of dollars disappearing here, and it does seem to be happening unless there's some sort of strike of lightning going on in New York City. And here's what I'm looking for, because you mentioned the financial markets in New York City. Absolutely nothing is keeping the New York Stock Exchange in Manhattan. Unlikely as it might be, it could move to Boca Raton. It could move to Dallas, where the corporations and the brokerage houses and the investment banks would have much lower tax rate, much better cost of living for their employees, and by the way, a lot better weather. So it does seem to be heading in that direction, but I'm looking for the big trigger where the brokerage houses, and God help us, possibly the New York Stock Exchange, possibly NASDAQ, moving out of state. Those are not government owned. Those are actually publicly owned entities.
You mentioned that Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate in the race, who has not shown much viability, just did an interview on the Fox News channel where he said he was staying in the race. Do you see any scenario where President Trump or one of the financial houses or someone with juice can lean on him and say, you know what, it's not going to happen. You staying in the race is ultimately going to produce a socialist mayor. It's time for you to find a new hobby.
Yeah, and I have zero doubt. Anybody with common sense has zero doubt that has been taking place all along. Why they waited until, what is it, like 36 days, 40, 50 days until the election? Why Eric Adams waited until now, until he realized that there was no money coming in to his campaign? I don't know what Sliwa is thinking, but I am sure that the overtures are going on behind the scenes. And the issue is, would he be the difference maker? Because there is a juggernaut of socialist/communist support behind Mamdani. I mean, there is no denying that there is a demand for what he's selling. I just know inherently what he's selling cannot work in New York or anywhere because it has not worked. So, and by the way, if you've noticed in recent weeks, the get away from me Trump the language from Cuomo and Sliwa appears to be softening. Like they seem to have pushed him away for so long because, you know, the perception that there are only liberals in New York City is a misnomer. So whatever's going on, I'm watching it very closely because they haven't learned from Chicago and they haven't learned from LA, and maybe this is what they need. Hey, and by the way, John, maybe communism will work in New York City. You can bet the farm against it, though.
When you look at politics and you look at political movements specifically, they seem to operate in rashes. Go back to the 1980s where you had center-right candidates who were very successful at the ballot box, where you had the United States with Reagan, you had Margaret Thatcher in the United Kingdom, you had a conservative in Canada. They did well in the 80s. And then you move forward to the 90s and you had these center-left, these centrists taking over the big countries, where you had Tony Blair in the UK and Bill Clinton here in the United States, Mitterrand in France, Yitzhak Rabin in Israel. They did well. And now nationally, globally, you have this sort of populist revolution that's going on. We saw that with Brexit in the United Kingdom and Europe. We see it with Trump. We see it in Argentina, where they have a populist libertarian leader. Other countries are following suit. And in response to that, at the local level, the city level, we're seeing socialists gain traction. We saw it happen in Chicago, as you mentioned, when a socialist candidate beat the incumbent Democratic candidate as she was running for re-election, and that's a disaster. We're now seeing it in New York City with the success of Mamdani in the Democratic primary and his strength in public opinion polling. But we've also seen it at the city council level in places like Seattle, where socialists have done quite well. In Los Angeles, the DSA bloc, the socialist bloc, seems to expand their ranks every time there's a new election. Could you see a scenario where this wave of socialism at the big city level continues to spread across the country and it hits Los Angeles at the citywide level, which we've already seen, by the way, with Kenneth Mejia in the controller's office, not quite yet with the mayor's office. Bass may be a socialist. You and I certainly feel that way, but she claims publicly, at least, to be a capitalist. But you could see an actual member of the DSA, an actual socialist, get elected to an office like that, maybe in LA, maybe in San Francisco, maybe in big cities around the country.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like you and I said, you and I already kind of sort of know we already have it here. And by the way, in my opinion, if it was a two-person race for the next mayor of Los Angeles between Bass and Mejia, Kenneth Mejia would trounce Bass on a number of factors, both youth and energy, clarity of message. He has called out, he has an advisory role. People think that he can just slam the brakes on the city government, but he can't. But he does articulate a lot of the issues, which makes the power players uncomfortable. And he won 15 out of 15 districts in Los Angeles. And in fairness to Kenneth Mejia, he is a certified public accountant who understands numbers backward and forward. Doesn't mean I agree with his views. Doesn't mean I haven't had some disappointments in him. But yeah, absolutely. If it was Bass and Mejia today, it would be arguably one of the biggest landslides in Los Angeles electoral history. There's no doubt about it. The question is, who else is going to jump in? Could it be another Caruso? Could it be, God help it, Spencer Pratt? Spencer Pratt, whose home and his family's home burned down in the Palisades, is the person not in politics who I'm hearing the most. And every time I hear Spencer Pratt talk, it sounds like I'm talking to my neighbors who are just fed up with it. So Bass and Mejia right now, everything on Mejia. I don't see how Bass wins unless she isn't challenged. And by the way, every statistic that Bass is putting out should be questioned. I don't believe it. They're spending $6 million for a white shoe law firm so that the mayor doesn't have to testify in federal court on what happened to billions of dollars. And even if she was being transparent, for $2 billion, she only got, 1,700 people off the street? And I don't even believe that. So God help us, man. God help us.
What are you hearing about Rick Caruso? And I say that because whenever I talk to consultants, whenever I talk to anyone who works full-time in politics, they are all of the belief that the gubernatorial election is the one that he's looking at quite closely. But when you listen to him speak, when he talks about politics, when he weighs in on a subject, it's almost always on a municipal issue in Los Angeles. Right. It's clear to me that his interest level is at the city level. Whether or not he thinks he's viable as a candidate for mayor of Los Angeles, I don't know. But I think it would be a mistake for him to run for governor if he's not interested in those issues, but he is interested in the city issues in Los Angeles. If that's what you're interested in, go for it, because we need a candidate.
Yeah, yes, he would probably be a very capable governor. I know he would be a very capable mayor because this is where his whole life has been. And he's a guy who creates thousands of jobs. As I like to say, he signs the front of paychecks, not the back of paychecks. But everything that I see from him and the people who I trust on the inside track of the information, it doesn't seem like he knows who he wants to be and what his message is. You can be compassionate about the ICE raids in Los Angeles, but you have to sound like you know what your alternative is. I don't know why he or anybody else considering running for mayor hasn't said, hey, you know what? I'm going to call President Trump. I'm going to call Stephen Miller. We want to help you get rid of the 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people in this area who are undoubtedly really dangerous people to us. Gang members, traffickers, the organized theft rings. But can we work together to leave alone the 700,000 people who we do need here, who are people who work in our homes, people who are our friends, people who actually do contribute to society? And you could figure out the immigration thing later, but I don't know why Caruso hasn't said, hey, here's what I would do. We've got to get rid of the people who are an existential threat to all of us. And can we somehow find a way that the people who are our friends and neighbors and vendors and employees, and leave them alone, because it's not working and it's a really bad look. If I were Caruso, if I were anybody considering running for Los Angeles mayor, That's the angle that I would take, and I don't see that from Rick Caruso. In fact, I don't see much of any difference from Rick now than when he ran a few years ago. And so I'm watching and I'm waiting for a change of tone for somebody to enter the race. Right now, Spencer Pratt for logic, Kenneth Mejia for momentum, as far as I'm concerned. Oh, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I also add, even though she has teased it, keep your eye on Monica Rodriguez of the 7th Council District. She has put out some cheeky kind of, I'm buying some running shoes, i.e., I may be in a race. So it wouldn't surprise me if Monica Rodriguez got into the mayor's race, but she has really low name recognition outside of City Hall.
Well, either she's running for mayor or I'll be seeing her at the Christmas 5K over at Griffith Park.
Exactly.
Okay, during the course of our interview, this has gone all over social media. Apparently, Mamdani did an interview in New York City where he said if elected mayor, he would set aside $65 million of city money to pay for transgendered care. I assume that means gender reassignment surgery and all the costs associated with that. In the context of what we just talked about, where the stock exchange is talking about moving out of New York City, and he doesn't seem to be concerned about that, but this is what he is concerned about, and this is where he's going to spend the money, and this is where he's going to spend his time. It is beyond my ability to comprehend. Even if you are a partisan Democrat, even if you hate Donald Trump with the hot, hot hate of 1,000 suns, that you would be willing to vote for something like this to prove to the world that you hate Donald Trump. I cannot imagine that they would be this suicidal, but the polls say they are.
Well, you know what? All you have to do is look to last November, where we had a clearly addled President Biden, and how he got elected in the first place with the basement strategy is just mind-boggling to me. And by the way, Georgia Senator John Ossoff, I just read earlier today, he said he knew Biden was dealing with memory loss and dementia and stuff like that, but he decided to go along with it because he sensed that there really was that type of intensive hatred of Trump to the point of electing an inferior or trying to reelect Joe Biden, and clearly incapacitated president. And that's how they wound up with Kamala Harris, instead of actually seeing what Andy Beshear from Kentucky or Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan or any of the other candidates could have done in a very short primary. So, no, it would not surprise me at all, as mind-boggling as it is. And let me remind your listeners, John, that New York City has more Jews in the metropolitan New York area than anywhere other than Israel on the planet. And there, believe it or not, there are a good number of Jewish communities that lean much further left than center left, than Democrat, than liberal. And so I wouldn't have guessed this before Mamdani came around, but that is the way the sail on the ship is blowing. But man, and the one thing is, once they do this to New York City, they may not be able to reverse it. You can reverse it in LA, you can reverse it in Chicago, but if they lose the financial markets to a place like I said, like Boca Raton or Dallas. By the way, that's just something that I have been pondering myself. I'm not sure how likely that is. But once that happens, you will never get the financial markets back to New York City. And it is a once in a millennium type of situation. So we know what the options are, and very few of them are good.
Daniel Guss, editor of the Guss Report. You can get him online at danielguss.substack.com and follow him on X at The Guss Report. Daniel Guss, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you so much, John Randy. And it was great seeing you at your Sherman Oaks Live event a week and a half ago. I hope you do a lot more of that. Great seeing you as well. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com.
And Randy, now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, and I got to be honest, it feels like I just blinked and now we're halfway through the show. So if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You could do a Google on the YouTube. You can get the free KABC app. You can get the free KSFO app. Get the KMJ Now app because we're on that station Saturday at 2. Boy, at some point, I'll even read more of those. And search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. Download all the episodes. And if you need a little pick-me-up, the best thing you can do is listen to this show and have some candy. Like, I don't know, what are those round things that sometimes have nuts in them?
No, peanut.
Peanut M&Ms. Yeah, you should have those.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Oh, I forgot we were doing that. Great thinking. Let's do it. Let me pull up the copy right now. 790 KABC welcomes Some Like It Hot at the Sigerstrom Center on October 7th through the 19th. Tickets are on sale now at scfta.org. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show on October 8th. Tickets furnished by the Sigerstrom Center for the Arts. Good luck dialing.
And right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, this edition takes us to West Hollywood.
There's a serial peeper who's doing all kinds of unspeakable things around West Hollywood. For more, let's go to a report from KTLA.
In West Hollywood tonight, where residents catch a suspected peeping Tom on camera just roaming through apartment complexes. And people who...
Well, if he's on camera, why don't we bust him?
Okay, who has a better case? The Karens who are upset that their name is associated with women who want to speak to the manager, or people named Thomas who are named after perverts who are leering at you when you're trying to take a shower?
How about John's?
That's true. Johns are people who frequent prostitutes, latrines, and unidentified dead bodies. Come to think of it, Randy, I have the best case.
And people who live in this area say this is not the first time that this person has been spotted in their neighborhood acting inappropriately.
They say they're afraid.
They peeped the peeper multiple peeping times.
Acting inappropriately.
They say they're afraid for their safety. KTLA's Rachel Menitoff is live in West Hollywood, where she spoke with residents. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Karine. Hi, Rick. Good evening to you both. People around here say this man has been intruding on the neighborhood for years, committing lewd acts, peering into people's homes, and even threatening assault.
None of that's a crime?
So he's this kind of creepy pervert, and he's been around so long that everyone knows him by name?
And they've all witnessed him
Doing the most with his hands.
What a calling card.
West Hollywood residents say they've caught this man stalking, peeping, pulling down his pants, and touching himself inside a number of apartment complexes.
Whoa!
Okay. Do you realize that HOAs will ruin your life if you leave your garage door up for a period of time? Yet you can live in a building where someone is allowed to do that and everyone just looks the other way?
Over the last 7 or so years.
7 years this guy's been walking around threatening people and doing you know what.
How many seasons did I Love Lucy run?
Not this many.
He's been seen at the bus stop on Fairfax and Santa Monica, outside the CBS building, down Fairfax.
He went to Television City.
Well, Bill Maher's not going to like that. Neither is Drew Carey.
He'll often be arrested and cited, but soon returns and continues harassing neighbors who...
Yet we keep deciding for the same punishment, even though it doesn't work on this obvious nutcase.
Well, you know, Randy, that's accountability.
who fear he could act on his threats of violence.
I unfortunately
that was one of those broad categories of crime that George Gascon, when he got elected as district attorney of Los Angeles, just said straight up isn't a crime anymore, and we're not going to prosecute it. Making criminal threats.
Quite frankly.
It's great that we tossed him out of office, but it's going to take so long to get things back to normal.
I unfortunately encountered him on public transportation.
Oh, great. He's on the bus.
Stay off the bus.
Where he began to stalk me to the building. And after threatening me, I got a message from my neighbor that he was on his camera in front of my door with rope in his hands.
Whoa!
What else do you need if you're the cops? Does anyone hear that description and say, doesn't seem like a problem to me?
I mean, what are we thinking here? The rope's actually for himself because that's what he enjoys?
I don't know.
We've blurred
I don't know if I want to know.
We've blurred his face for the time being because he hasn't been formally identified by law enforcement and
Wait, you just said that he's been doing this for several years and has been arrested several times.
And they could describe certain features of this guy that you wouldn't be able to describe unless, you saw some things.
We've blurred his face for the time being because he hasn't been formally identified by law enforcement and hasn't been charged with a crime. However, people are corroborating his unwelcome visits on the Nextdoor app.
Oh, I bet that's a lively conversation.
Oh, can you imagine?
Have you seen this blank?
Probably involves a lot of words we can't use on the radio.
And say his sightings seem to be escalating.
He always has an open container, can of beer with him.
That's not a crime?
This isn't New Orleans. How is that allowed?
So this guy's walking around with a 40 of Modelo Chelada and no pants. And I guess anything goes in West Hollywood.
Hey, Bob, how are you? Good to see you again.
He always has
they all know him.
He always has an open container, can of beer with him.
He had, of course, the can of beer, which he's had it in every other, ring video.
Do you think he's a brand loyalist or he likes to try a whole bunch of different beers while he's stalking people?
I think he'll drink whatever you hand him.
Ring video.
Lala K says
I like that she calls it a ring video.
Ring video.
Lala K says the peeping Tom was spotted in her WeHo apartment as recent.
Lala has a ring.
What do you think the odds are she refers to the remote control as the clicker?
Ring video.
Lala K says the peeping Tom was spotted in her WeHo apartment as recently as last weekend.
He opened the screen door, which also locks, but he opened it and then he looked like this. Inside, the hole where is up the ring.
Residents are hoping that law enforcement can do more to prevent the prying eyes and violations of privacy.
I mean, how many documented cases of open container, threatening, dropping your pants, and doing what do you need? It's all on camera. The evidence is right there. What exactly are WeHo sheriff's deputies waiting for?
They just need the will to arrest this guy.
It's the safety of a lot of the women and people that live around here. It seems like it could be a potentially dangerous thing.
I come back late at night and I'm very worried that I will run into him.
He seems to know where to go and we'll come back to the same places.
I guess we're just going to wait until something horrific happens.
Yeah, what is the point of doing that? This guy is breaking any number of laws. He's doing it brazenly. Everyone knows who he is. Half of it's on tape. Do your job.
And the sheriff's department says it is well aware of this situation.
That makes it worse.
Because you're clearly looking the other way.
Or being told you have to.
Situation and is asking anyone who might encounter this man to document and report it to them.
That's what they've all been doing.
How much of this do you think is that none of the sheriff's deputies want this guy in the back of their black and white?
Well, there's definitely that.
We're live in
Forever unclean.
We're live in West Hollywood tonight. I'm Rachel Menitoff. I'll send it back to you in studio.
There you go. The serial peeper who's been stalking and threatening people in West Hollywood for at least 7 years is still free on the streets to roam around and do what exactly again? Oh, that's right.
Doing the most with his hands.
Pervert. And right now it's time to reopen the California crime blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, this edition is an update on a story we brought you last week.
There is a lot of interest on that jewelry store robbery, the big smash and grab with 25 suspects coming out of San Ramon, because that video has gone everywhere of 25 people breaking into the jewelry store with pickaxes, smashing everything up. They close the security gate, and what happens? They shoot their way out. Well, 7 of those suspects have been arrested, and John, I know this is going to shock you. They have criminal records.
Wait a minute. Accountability didn't work?
Well, it might, thanks to new laws like Prop 36. For more, here's a report from ABC7 in the Bay.
These are organized criminal gangs that if we don't get a hold of this, our society is in deep trouble.
A former prosecutor's blunt assessment of Monday's jewelry store heist in the East Bay. Tonight, new information about the suspects, including prior...
Guys, you could fade out the music any second now.
Yeah, this isn't a disco.
New information about the suspects, including prior arrests. Good evening, I'm Ahmed Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. Thanks for joining us. The thieves got away with more than $1 million worth of goods from Heller Jewelers in San Ramon.
Okay, what's the cut on that? Let's say it was just the 25 guys and there was no one else that was organizing this. But if it was $1 million heist and they got to split that 25 ways, that's only 40 grand a piece.
Well, you're assuming they split it evenly, and I guarantee you they didn't do that.
And you know how this usually works out in the movies. They all start turning on each other.
Oh, 100%. There's no honor among thieves.
I mean, they've only caught 7, and I'm just speculating here. Is it possible the reason they haven't caught the rest is because the rest of them already murdered each other?
Well, if someone was taking more than they were allotted, maybe.
7 of the 24 suspects are now in custody.
ABC 7 News reporter Francis Wing investigated the suspects' criminal histories and found multiple arrests.
You don't say.
Least surprising thing you'll hear all day.
Well, we investigated the suspect's criminal history by combing through jail and county records spanning multiple counties. In Alameda County, court records show that the 27-year-old suspect from Vallejo has actually faced multiple robbery charges before, but was never convicted for the robbery charges.
I wonder who was the DA then?
That's a very good question.
She called me a crime boss.
Oh, yeah, her.
We spoke to a former prosecutor about why that could be and how suspects like him are still out committing these sorts of crimes.
It is such a pervasive problem, and it's not a good look for the state of California to have these kinds of videos all over the country showing rampant retail theft.
This surveillance video has now been seen across the country. A mob of mass suspects ransacking Heller Jewelers in San Ramon. Police say 7 of the 25 involved are now in custody. 3 already facing serious felony charges in Contra Costa County. I asked former Santa Clara County District Attorney Stephen Clark about why one of the suspects was never convicted for that robbery charge.
What you're seeing is the actual record of this individual that they pled to a lesser charge and the robbery charge was dismissed.
Huh. This guy was going to learn his lesson, huh?
Go back to what not only this particular DA had to say, Pamela Price, but other Soros-funded DAs around the state of California, whether it be George Gascon in Los Angeles or Chesa Boudin in San Francisco. This is the platform that they ran on. We don't want to give these people a record. We don't want these people to go to prison. We don't want these people to face serious consequences for breaking the law. What we want is to check a box, say we held them accountable, and then release them so they can do it again, because that is equity.
That suspect was also out on probation while committing several crimes.
Are you telling me that probation doesn't work?
You see, that's accountability. We didn't let him get away with it. We gave him probation, and he'd learn his lesson from that.
Well, and then you look at what's going on specifically in places like Los Angeles County, where because of AB 109, unless you're an incredibly violent person, you're not going to prison, even if you get convicted of a felony. So you're going to the local jails. Now you're in LA County where the local jails are overcrowded. So what do? They put you on probation and give you an ankle monitor. But guess what? That doesn't mean anything because there's such a staffing shortage at the juvenile hall that they're taking all the field deputies and throwing them into Los Padrinos. So there's nobody to actually make sure the people on probation are following the rules.
And it's this way by design.
Former prosecutor Stephen Clark says we're now seeing a shift in how seriously retail crimes are being taken.
What you're seeing now is prosecutors trying to educate the judges and saying, look, these are no longer just theft crimes.
And that seems to be the message.
How's that working out with the judges?
You see, Gavin Newsom wants to be president, and if the judges do something boneheaded, he doesn't want to be blamed for it. But many of them were nominated by him or by his predecessor, Jerry Brown.
And that seems to be the message Contra Costa's district attorney is trying to send. In addition to 13 counts of second-degree robbery, there's also a conspiracy charge for the suspects, quote, executing a scheme that began with stealing cars and even firing a gun to escape after being locked in.
So they're not just going to charge them with shoplifting? I love this, by the way. I love seeing any DA in any part of the state that really wants to take this seriously, because what happened in San Ramon was horrifying. And the more videos we see like that, unfortunately, lead to more criminals thinking, I can get away with it, so I'm going to go knock off a jewelry store next.
But it can't just be a one-off. You have to do it consistently so that word gets out.
Prosecutors are using the conspiracy laws is they want the people that are organizing this, that are in the getaway car, that are the planners, to face the same sanctions as the people that are carrying it out in the stores.
Even the guy in the Kia, John.
The DA also looking into special enhancements under Prop 36, which just passed late last year. And it could increase sentencing for the 24 robbers who try to get away with over $1 million worth of stolen merchandise. In San Ramon, Francis Wang, ABC 7 News.
So there's the latest on the 7 of 25 in that massive smash and grab in San Ramon. What happened to the rest of them? Who knows?
I'm telling you, if you were to cut down on crimes like this, you don't have to imprison an insane number of people. You just have to identify the people who do it over and over and over again because they are repeat offenders, and you have to eliminate them from society because they do not know how to play nice with others. And it doesn't matter how many social programs you create, how many second chances you give them, you're not going to fix them. They are broken people. This is what they do for a living, and they make a handsome living doing it. And it's time that we put an end to it.